It's time for Cutting Edge Consciousness with Freeman Michaels and Barnet Bain. Thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
Good moment. Freeman Michaels here.
Good moment. It's Barnet Bain. It's a pleasure to be with you this moment and all moments.
Indeed.
Last week has been...
Those of you who tuned in last week, we do need an update, Barnet, because...
Wow. Yeah, those were some moments. But amazing. I'm just getting my levels set here. They always seem to...
You're doing that once we're already on air.
You know, I like to I like to have our listeners participate. I like to participate with them. Yeah, there was a week of changes, of movement.
Well, you were getting worked.
I was getting through the spin cycle there.
You were on the spin cycle,
but
for sure.
I'm feeling great now.
Yeah,
and it's interesting. You know, you go through. I went through having a whole lot of buttons pushed, a whole lot of triggering things that fragmented me into. I felt like Humpty Dumpty. And
what we love about the Humpty Dumpty story is all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty Dumpty back together again, but he could put himself back together again.
Well, we hope so. Yeah, I believe that Humpty Dumpty is in that way a soul story. It is a soul story.
Yeah.
And only you can put yourself back together again. So I am reassembled and feeling much humility. And by that, I mean it in the sense of where I held the world in a very particular way, and in the very next second, all things can be different. And so I'm not as rigidly locked in to the matter of things as in the same way. And it feels in my body exciting.
Yeah.
It feels really exciting.
I want to give the some context to this.
You do?
So just a little, because I think sometimes we're talking and people kind of know what we're talking about, but they're not really clear. So basically, you know, look, in some of the work that you do, in some of the things that you had lined up, you experienced some setbacks and some challenges. And these things were unnerving and overwhelming, and you know, they triggered a bunch of stuff.
Well, let me put some context to the context.
Go for it.
You're right. I mean, what precipitated it,
please,
was a setback on a project that I was doing that has
a film project
that has resolved itself.
Yeah, it's resolved itself now, but last week it was way in the spin cycle.
Way in the spin cycle,
Yeah.
but in truth,
yeah,
more deeply in the greater truth of it, that is a straw. It's like that last straw, that last pickup stick that you go for, and then the whole house of cards. I'm mixing metaphors all over the place.
Mix away.
The whole stack of sticks falls down. It was the last little piece. And what fragments is not a response to that particular situation. It is a systemic crumbling of my confidence in how I have, in every way, that just everything seems to collapse. And what that really speaks to, for me, is a reframing of my relationship with certainty, with the future, with the suitcases of expectation and imagination and desire that I bring with me. That has an entirely I have an entirely different relationship with it. I'm not clear what the new relationship with it is, but I am more clear that it no longer works for me to hold the future as a straight line in the way that that I have for so many years. And that's what a fantastic segue. Did you write that segue? Am I reading off a script here?
We're always
what a great way to segue.
Finding our way to talk about the future
and our guest.
how we relate to the past and so forth. So yeah, who are we talking to today?
We're talking to Thomas John. We have Thomas John here.
Nice. Good move.
Maybe we'll get in People magazine too.
Yeah.
So Thomas John is a really well-known. He's more famous than we are.
Medium.
We're famous in our own minds. And clairvoyant, and a coach, and known all over the place. For any of you who follow celebrity antics, they follow Thomas.
And we do too. Welcome to the show, Thomas.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, so glad to have you with us. So you as on a daily basis, on a regulation basis, people come to you because they want to make the future less mysterious.
That's a big part of my job, yeah. I mean, guiding people about what might be up ahead for them, but also, as you mentioned, also the past, and tapping into certain experiences that might have happened, and learning what the purpose or the meaning or what the overall plan for a certain setback or a situation might have been, and connecting them with a higher consciousness, their guides or their loved ones who might be at a different dimension than them, but still have something to offer them.
I have a question for you. My sense of what you do and why I like the way that you do it, not everyone does what you do in the same way, is that, as Barnett was saying, people come to you because they're uncertain about the future. But it feels to me like a lot of people come because they're looking for some kind of affirmation of decisions they want to make. And my sense is that you encourage them in a constructive way, being able to see a little ahead of where they can see and holding a vision of possibility for them. How do you handle the desperation where they're looking? The worldview, I guess the word is luck, that people are looking for. They relate to this the future in a kind of lucky, unlucky way. Do you know what I'm talking about? Almost as a what's the word for that? Anyhow, that's enough. So how do you because I know that my sense of your work is that you have a higher perspective in the most positive way. So even if something looks like it's not what they would choose for themselves, you see it from the higher perspective and the greater good and how it's going to resolve ultimately, but they don't. So how do you help them with their own developmental way of relating to the world where they're hoping to get lucky? You know what I'm talking about?
I mean, I guess the way I would answer that is that I help people in my sessions, or, you know, in a session, to a couple of things. One is to empower them in some way to develop or kind of connect with their own intuition, and be able to sort of navigate and kind of negotiate things for themselves a little bit more. And also, I try to empower, you know, my clients with the way that I structure my messages. So, for example, a lot of people will ask me, well, do you tell people bad things? And so, you know, or do you tell people scary things? Like, you know, and the answer to that is what the spirit world or what the guides give me is information that you can change, or that you can avoid, or you can improve upon, or you can somehow utilize in some way. So, you know, I would never tell someone, you know, September 5th, you know, 2025, you're going to have a heart attack. So, you know, take care. Like, you know,
right.
I would never tell someone that, because now I might tell someone, you know, the guides are coming through and they're saying, you know, like I told a woman, I had a reading with a woman this morning, and she said, do you get anything about my husband's health? And this was over the phone. I had no idea what she looked like, no idea what he looks like. And I said, well, he's got to stop smoking. The first thing that came is I said, he's got to stop smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a day. And she's like, oh, my God, yeah, I know. Do you see that? And I could just feel it right around him. And so that's something that she can then, it's kind of a more obvious example. Obviously, you know, you shouldn't be smoking. I mean, you don't need a psychic probably to tell you that's a health hazard. But the fact that that came through so strongly for him is something that he should probably deal with in some way. So I guess I try to give information that somebody can then go out in the world and really use.
Yeah.
So you're reading energy and receiving information to do with energy as it's currently held, and you're reminding folks that they they're empowered to shift that. These are not ultimate futures.
Exactly, and and then sort of another piece of my work that is kind of the other side of the coin is the work that I do with as a medium, which is really connecting with people who have passed away, and that's a lot about we probably all have people that we love that aren't here anymore, and that's more of a validation, appreciation for them. Sometimes it's even about closure. I mean, and people and sort of allowing someone a second chance. I had a woman yesterday who came, and her father was this, crazy, abusive, basically psychotic guy that she had no connection with. And he came through in the reading and was apologizing and saying how proud he is of all her different accomplishments, things he couldn't verbalize in the physical plane. So I think a tremendous amount of healing goes on in a moment like that, because somebody who's had all these patterns and she's become, an overeater, and she's become, abusive in her own parenting, it can be healed, and somebody can be, it can really, there's a big shift that goes on, and, it's only an hour session, so it can be, I think it can be very beneficial sometimes.
And so often these unresolved bits and pieces, again, just held in a context that's more generous than the individual can imagine at the stage of development they're in. That's sort of how I view it. Like, for example, even what Barnett was talking about, where something occurred in his work world that if someone had predicted that prior to it actually occurring, he would have thought, oh, that's a disaster. And in the moment it was disorganizing and hard to deal with and so forth. But now he's reporting on the other side of it like, oh my God, that was perfect. Who knew? Now things are resolving and all these impasses we were facing are cleaning up, right? So there's something about the way you guide people through that is bigger than the information you're relaying. That's what I'm trying to say.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. And when I think that, yeah, exactly. And I think also that it can be, it can also be, the threshold of, or the the quantity of information can even be, fairly small. I mean, it doesn't have to be, something that's, it can be small, it can be small pieces that can really shift in big and important ways.
It's that straw thing Barnett was talking about, right?
Was I talking about straw?
Well, you said
I'm
the
very,
final stick or something. I don't know.
I'm being very present in the moment.
What did I say 5 minutes ago? I don't know.
Go
ahead.
Everybody that's listening right now has got one thing on their mind. It's like, when are you guys going to be quiet and let Thomas speak about what's coming up?
Oh, predictions. Oh, this is, we should actually do that after the break, because one of the things...
I predict that we're going to do that after the break.
See, you're psychic. What I love about what you do, and lots of folks don't necessarily know this, but I want them to, is that you
don't tell everybody
predict cool stuff. You predicted the Pope, that there was going to be a new Pope before the new Pope actually came to be, and no one saw that coming. You've predicted some amazing things. Before we go to break,
more things out of left field than Game of Thrones.
Yeah. So how does that work? I mean, we're gonna talk about some predictions after the break, but in the next minute or so, can you just talk about how predictions come in? And again, in that same way where you have to discern what's appropriate to put out. Just because you know something doesn't mean the folks around you have the capacity to handle it, right? So I want to know a little bit more about because again, your predictions are uncanny. So I want to know more about the predicting process.
Well, I mean, the predictions that I put out, the world predictions, I mean, it's sort of a different process than I do in a personal reading. But basically, ever since I was a little boy, I would always see things before they happened. In my own life, just world events. I remember so many times having experiences as a kid where I would go to places and I'm like, that's so weird, I've already been here. And I mean, I had literally felt like I was there already. and we're not talking deja vu. I mean, we're talking I could remember places, and we would take trips, and I would go places, and I already knew all the rooms in our beach house or something that we rented for 1 week, and we had never been there before. So I would get this information, and then kind of went away when I went to college, and then when I got back on my spiritual path and started meditating and working through some things, it came back very strong. So throughout the year, and then especially towards the end of the year, I get premonitions of things that might happen. And so I just kind of keep careful notes of them. And a lot of times I even will see newspaper stories, or I'll see flashes of news broadcasts, or I'll hear a radio playing in my head. And so I always would get these. And then about 4 or 5 years ago, I just decided I should really share these with people, because what use is it to me? I mean, it's great, but maybe it can help people in some way. And so that's kind of how I started that process.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we want to talk about predictions, because there are a few that you've made that I think are really interesting, and maybe some that I don't know about.
And maybe some late-breaking news.
Late-breaking news about tomorrow. We'll do that when we get back here on Cutting Edge Consciousness. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness, thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
Thank you for staying tuned. This is Cutting Edge Consciousness. We're back with some exciting predictions. We want to talk a little bit about some of the more exotic predictions that you made in the past, and have your thoughts about what feels like it's bubbling up, Thomas.
Thomas?
Well,
go ahead.
I have all my predictions on my website, but a lot of stuff that I've been picking up is all the environmental stuff that is kind of shifting in the world. I don't know if you guys have been feeling it, but I feel so much anger, like in the just environment lately, like in the past 6 months, past year. But I feel like there's so much like anger and like unresolved like rage, just energetically.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's going to play out a lot with the Earth plane, because I think the Earth, the actual Mother Earth. So I think definitely there's going to be a lot of violent storms. I keep seeing this image of an earthquake that I feel could be kind of. I feel will be serious towards like the Indonesia area and stuff. I actually kind of predicted on another program that I did last year. I predicted last December when I was getting interviewed about some of my predictions that there would be. I predicted some of the timings for all the earthquakes that they were having out in California, some of the dates and the months and stuff like that. And I feel like those California earthquakes that have been happening this year, I see another one with that. But again, I think there's that'll be over the summer in July. But I feel just a lot of that is just symptomatic of the I don't know what it is. It's like I just feel so much anger, like rage lately. I think what it is I think we're going through this phase in our consciousness where we're being called spiritually, a lot of us, to really go to a higher plane. And I think that I think with all these shifts in consciousness that's going on, we're being called to this is kind of a breaking point to go to the next level. And I think that it's spiritually requiring a lot of people to, look in the mirror and look at themselves and evaluate things. I'm talking overarching generally now, but just to re-examine a lot of things. And I think that is creating people to be angry, despondent, sad, because we have to kind of, karmically face up to some things right now before the Earth can go to this next, phase that I feel is not that far off.
I'm very curious about this next phase. So both Barnett and I, and I'm presuming you do, see consciousness as evolutionary, see stages as developmental, not good or bad, just necessary.
Right.
And of course, everything that we look at that at the time in our life we felt was a catastrophe, when we look at it in hindsight, we always recognize that it was part of the next stage of our own development, even if at the time it was excruciating. Divorces, losing a business or a loved one or whatever. There's this way that it sets the stage for something that we in essence have to go through. So from that sort of evolutionary perspective, what's the trajectory? I mean, I understand there's some rough waters. I think we all get that's part of the spiritual journey. But the trajectory, give us some hints, and maybe even some of the manifestations, some of the ways it actually will look, such as, I don't know, a female president or...
What's happening with the Kardashians?
Barnett's addiction to reality television. Tell us more about the positive trajectory, or whatever comes to mind based on what I just said.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And I also think, just as someone who works with, the human spirit on a daily basis, as I'm sure you guys do, I mean, I think we're very surprisingly resilient. We're going definitely into a place of consciousness where, there's our whole value system is going to change. So one thing I see is that just like now, for example, where we prize, not we, but just the general, human population, where we prize certain things like, or we covet certain things like, skinniness or physique or money, financial money and stuff. I see spiritual awareness, spiritual consciousness, real deep connection to insight and awareness being on that platform. And I feel like that will, it's almost there right now, but I feel like there's going to be even more of a shift where that's much more predominant and stuff. I definitely feel that will manifest in a lot of political leader upheaval. And so I feel within the, I'm talking broad strokes here, but in the next few years, I feel we will have a female president. If it's not the next president, I feel it would be the one after that. But I feel it's going to be the next one. I mean, I feel there's a lot of potential around Hillary, very, very strong with her. But the only thing that I get around her is that I've been picking up like some health stuff around her, almost like, she might make a positive run, but then have some health things and have to pull back or something like that. But I definitely see her in the running. I definitely feel like, I know she's been on the fence. I feel like she's going to go forward with it. I see her having a campaign. I just get some health stuff where she might either have to stop for a second or come back or something like that. But I feel that she has it's almost like she's definitely being called upon to, serve in that way and move that. So I think there'll be a lot of, I just think across the board, a lot of political upheaval, a lot of leaders changing. I mean, we've already had it with the new Pope. I see a lot of stuff shifting in South America, Cuba. I see them, new leader there. So I feel that that's definitely as part of this shift. Some of the, a lot of our main leaders will change.
And I'm curious because I know you've in the past made the prediction, and I feel like an ongoing prediction, that the current financial system, the system of, and even more precisely, the money, the money we use, the way we use money, the way it's structured. I can say personally, and this is my own sort of seeing of it, that I see where it's out of whack. It's this debt-driven economy, and I don't want to go too far into that, but that going again in this value system, the change in value system. How do you see that reflected in terms of money?
Well, in the U.S., I continuously pick up this major shift in October of 2014, and they've continued to tell me, I've probably gotten that 15 or 20 times in meditation and dreams, that in October in 2014, there's going to be a big shift in the U.S. economy that I keep being told will be very difficult in the beginning, but again, like you said, ultimately for our own good. And so that's one thing. The other thing that I get is that we are going to shift to a more single form, I don't want to say single, but small system of currency across the world. So I'm seeing that there'll be a lot more international currency, almost like we have the euro, which can be accepted in a lot of different countries. I'm feeling like we're going to have three or four currencies rather than the dozens and dozens that we have now. So and it'll be a lot more almost for whole continents and stuff. I'm feeling like that's something that will happen in the next 10 years or so. And there's also going to be, I see really as part of the end of this presidency and into the next presidency, a lot of gun reform, gun law reform, where I see that I'm not going to say guns are going to be outlawed, but I see them being heavily restricted. And I think that people who are pushing for things like intense mental health evaluations or limited access to guns or special, multiple special permits, I see that because I think because we're in such a major shift right now, everything is so unstable, and so I think energetically, it's not really, in a way, I mean, it's obviously sad and tragic, but I just feel like we have obviously proven right now in this country that we can't be really trusted with guns, and so I just see that, and it's really we're not to really be blamed for that. It's just that there is such emotional and spiritual upheaval right now that it's not, our energy is not right for that right now. So I see that those will be limited or restricted, or there's going to be a lot more restrictions than you might imagine towards those in the next couple years, 3 years, 4 years.
Great. Interesting.
So, do you have anything to say about other areas of this presidency? Do you have anything to say about the midterms? Do you have anything to say about legacy? It seems to me that for many, this president has been a disappointment, a heartbreak. And also there are many for whom he has been a towering image of achievement. So do you have anything to add about where this administration is going?
I see that there's going to be, as far as the midterms, 2014 I see being very transformative. And I really see Republicans, the party of Republicans, definitely picking up several seats. I think that, with Obama, I just feel that I just get energetically from him that he's extremely tired. And I feel the last couple of years of his presidency are going to be really hard for him. And, a lot of this midterm election stuff, I keep picking up, a lot of it has to do, for some reason, I know there's a bunch of states on the line, but I keep picking up down the south, like Georgia, that area. That seems very pivotal. I don't know why. It feels like I see a war going on there. So I'm feeling like not a war, but like like a political war. Like not war, but just upheaval there. So I'm feeling like that's either going to be like the breaking state, or something's going to happen there that would be kind of surprising. It just has a lot of energy around it.
So let's change gears dramatically, and I don't know whether you're willing to do this, but I hope you are. We have only a few minutes. Anything from me from my dad? Hey, Dad.
Oh, from your father. Oh, that's interesting, Barnett. That came out of left field. I didn't think you'd do that.
If I get any. What is his first name?
Isaac.
What a trick.
I actually see somebody in the physical plane that he wants to talk about watching over. I feel like this would maybe be like either like a grandkid or somebody, but it definitely feels like a female. And do you have a daughter?
I do have a daughter.
Okay, so I guess he's just maybe saying that he watches over her, or he sees her and stuff, and he's very proud of her and stuff. And I see him with, and I actually feel like there's going to be I see a lot of accomplishments with. Yeah, and I don't get a very recent passing with him. Has he been over here for a while?
Yes, long time.
Yeah, because I don't really get like I don't get a very recent passing with him. And well, I think he definitely watches over that your daughter is almost like a guardian angel for her. And I see somebody who he's with that passed away. Whose name is with an S, but I don't know who that is. But there's somebody here with an S name.
With an F?
That he's with.
S or an F?
No, S like in Sam.
S.
Yes, my mother, her name began with an S.
Oh, okay. So then that's probably who. Yeah, he spends time with. And I see also there's like a lot of financial shifts for you that are coming up in the fall. They're telling me fall, yeah. Kind of like there's like I see you celebrating somebody's birthday in the fall, and then everything kind of shifting. Like it's showing me, that things would kind of, shift right after that, like August, September, October. So I that's what I keep seeing with that. And also your father, he's showing me Canada. I don't know what.
Yes, that's where I was raised. That's where we came from.
You guys were raised.
So that's a big one that you just like you opened the door and a little chink of light came in. Big financial shift. Is that a positive financial shift?
This is one of Barnett's primary places he gets triggered. So this is good.
Yes.
Go.
Yeah.
Yes, I see. Yeah, it definitely looks like it looks like a definitely positive. It's not negative. I see it's a positive thing.
That's great. He's breathing.
That's good. You can come back.
That's how you get back on the show. Oh my gosh! Listen,
Canada is great. I was raised in Canada. We lived in Canada, so it's really beautiful and astonishing.
I love it. Listen, I love your work. I want to let our listeners know, because obviously we want them to have access to you. And so please give us all of the ways, phone number, website, anything you want to give that would help our audience to have access to you.
My website is manhattanmedium.com. It's manhattanmedium.com. And then my phone number, where you could make an appointment or reach me is 347-637-8592. So that's 347-637-8592. And you can make an appointment or attend one of my groups, or I know you guys are out on the West Coast. I have an event coming up towards the...
We'll come see you.
Or August.
We already knew that.
Yeah, you already knew we were coming. Yeah, in August, and where is that going to be?
That'll actually be in Brea, California.
Brea, yeah. That's close to Los Angeles.
Yes.
Awesome. And we're in Los Angeles, so that's fantastic. So Hey, thank you so much for coming and hanging with us. Thanks for the
Lot of
predictions.
fun,
And
lot of fun.
we appreciate.
I'm sending you a bottle of wine in October.
That's right. And we appreciate all of your insight and everything you do.
Thank you for having me. It was a real pleasure.
And
Thank
for those of
you.
you listening, we invite you to stay tuned because Barnett and I will be back after this break to wrap things up here on Cutting Edge Consciousness.
Welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness, thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
And welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness. Freeman Michaels here with Barnett Bain. It's great to see Barnett's relieved that the check is in the mail.
Yeah, that's good news.
Oh,
That's good news. Isn't that amazing?
I love that
He
guy.
saw Canada. That was amazing.
I also, his predictions, I'm telling you, every time I look at his predictions, I'm like, this guy is on it.
That was amazing. So there's so much that's so rich about all of this. It's so juicy about all of this. We have destinies
Yeah,
and we have fates.
yeah.
And that fate is going to happen. And then the paradox is that we have these destinies that are self-chosen.
Well,
So we are creating it all 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And also, there is a fate that that is soulcraft, and that we are not creating it. That we're not participating in at the level of our personalities. And these things, they're beyond. They're certainly beyond my reasoning, my sense of logic, my infatuation with logic to understand that. It's just too
what I
paradoxical.
think, look, I want to shoot really straight at what I was joking about coming in, because it's such a mirror to me, Barnett. You mirror this so beautifully. If this sounds arrogant, I don't mean it this way. We're both up to some pretty interesting stuff. I mean, you got some cool films, the book, of course, that is going to be coming out. And I look at it sometimes with a total sense that this is all playing out perfectly. And I know you know this, but I also look at the panic of like, because I've seen these left turns, right turns, something was supposed to go, and then it gets delayed again. And, and how excruciating it is. And I can feel it with you. A, as your friend, right? So just watching my friend go through this, I'm like, when is that going to give? When's that financing coming? When's that start date going to happen? And then it gets pushed off. And, I've been through it with you. And my own version of that, because, all these things that I do, and what you've said many times, there are no absolutes, there are no guarantees. And only that it will not play out the way you think it's going to, which is at once unnerving and exciting, and you got to be okay with that because we're freelancers, right? We covered that a couple shows ago, that we're on a ride, and yet there is this knowing that it will be okay, and that we are up to something, and there is good that will come. There's moments where we're in the turbulence, our little earthquakes or tsunamis or whatever's going on, and then there's calm water. And that's just the nature of it, And the idea that we don't want the turbulence, we always want it to be calm, is not only naive, it is naive, but it's also not constructive. Not to say that we have to wish the turbulence. We just have to be okay with the fact that there's a certain amount of turbulence. There's a spin cycle, there's 4 cycles on the darn thing, and one of them spin, and that's what's going to happen. So, but I love the moment of seeing you get relieved. You knew it all along. But I mean, it's great. That's kind of what this guy serves as. I mean, he really does help people to tune into something they already knew, but he affirms it and they go, oh, thank you. You know what I'm saying? That's a weird thing.
It reminds me of 2 things. One is I hold the world as enchanted. I hold it as enchanted, meaning that everything is interconnected. We talked about Indra's net once.
Right.
In the eyes, the crosshairs of every stitch in the net of this wonderful God's net, there was a pearl that reflected every other pearl in the net. And so it's an image for holographic nature of things. So I see everything as being enchanted. And so everything is me. Everything is me. The degree that I loosen my separation, my control from myself and everything else, is to the degree that I feel I have a different response to life. Let's just say. But I don't hold it. I don't hold it that everything necessarily works out one way or works out the other way. I hold it that I am in a process of discovering more and more of who I am and how I am in relation to everything, and that I'm discovering more and more of the clutter, I call it, that stands in the way of me knowing that. And those pieces, they have histories, and they have memories. Some call it karma. No, they have memories, and they get very activated, and they can overwhelm me. So my ability to hold what's light, as well as my ability to hold what is dark and constrictive, both of those polarities are matter to me. They matter.
Yeah. I just know for my own self that there are cool, fun things I'm going to do in my life, and I'm organizing towards those things, but I'm wise enough to know that I don't know what it's going to look like. I have ideas, and look, I pursue those ideas until they loosen their grip and become something else.
You know what some of them look like.
Yeah, but look.
You know what a lot of them look like.
I know what the qualities are. There are 5 criteria for everything in my life, right? In the decision-making process, I run them through a criteria. Number 1 on my list, fun. Number 2, that it is of some kind of value or service that's bigger than me, right? Number 3 is that it's an expression of my gifts, talents, and abilities. Number 4 is that it builds connection and community. Number 5 is that I make money at it. So I have moved making money. It's still in the top 5. I'm not pretending like it doesn't, I don't care about the money. Look, I care about the money. It's the 5th most important reason why I make a decision in my life. But it's down to number 5. Whether it's noble or not, I don't care. You can think whatever you want about that. It used to be much higher on my list, which undermined the things that really are fulfilling to me in my life, right? And all of this is set against the backdrop of a belief that something cool is going to unfold. If I can stay true to those qualities that I'm looking to generate, right? And even the money has its qualities. Like we could even tease that out to a sense of security, a sense that I'm a steward of that resource in my life and I can make choices, right? So there's a whole way that delineates. Suffice to say, the future is going to be an expression of those things, period. How it's going to express, I don't know, but that's what I'm organizing around. That's how I work my magic. And it does, it works. It finds expression. And sometimes, there's those dark nights where I go, this is not playing out. Like, this is really hard, and that's okay too. But again, if I organize back to, but what do I want my choices to be expressions of? What do I want to create in my life? What do I want my career, my life, my relationships to, as a foundational qualities, express?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Very beautiful.
That's it. The rest is just, let's see what happens. It's a movie, it's a speech, it's a book, it's a radio show, a television, it's a this or that. Sometimes it's just a quiet conversation at a party that I go, yeah, that was totally in alignment with who I am and what I'm up to in my life.
How do you see your family, and how do you see your children as an expression of that? And I realize that these are wonderful metrics in order to craft a life, and they're valuable tools in order to craft a life.
Yeah.
And they don't cover the full warp and weave of who you are.
No, that's only 5. We can keep running down the list of what I organize my choices around. But with my kids and my family, the biggest thing about the spin cycle is that it brings me to a place of humility where I'm grateful for those things that are stable in my life. My wife is stable. You've said many times how solid she is, and she is.
Well,
Go ahead.
I am grateful. I am grateful for what I value in my life. I value that relationship.
Totally.
I don't have the. I have said it in the past, but I don't hold it now. That my relationship is stable, any more than anything else is stable.
That's a great point.
When I talk about humility, it is that even though the relationship has been stable, in the very next instant, it could be unstable.
What's stable is my commitment.
Stable is not even my commitment. My commitment. I'm not making it good or bad.
Right.
But
I'm curious. This is good.
It's not my commitment. My commitment, which changes and changed, it's constantly changing. Right now, my commitment is to honor my competence, that I have the will, that I have the will and I have the power, the will and the willingness to act, that I have sufficient, not all, but sufficient character and resources to show up, and resources of courage to experience what is constrictive and dark that I have been pushing away, but to experience what is there that is dark as well, and sometimes it's even harder to experience what is beautiful and delicious. To really let that in, I'm committed to that, and I value my relationship. I value my wife. There are certain partners and relationships in my life, people, things that I value, and but I now have the humility to see that in the very next second that could shift, and you come to a place where you love, and the biggest fear about love is the loss of love. So love is not the answer to everything. I mean, it's an old saw in our community that love is all you need. I don't experience that as true. We're going to get a lot of pushback and mail on that. I understand. There are dimensions of love that we do not have access to, and so it's like saying, I'm God. Yeah, I know I am, and there's more. Anyway, I don't know how we're doing for time here.
We're about done.
We're cooked, right? We're cooked. It's like that reminds me of that little button on the turkey that pops out every
button.
Thanksgiving. Boom.
You could also use a thermometer and just keep checking, but
not the same. It wouldn't be a product.
It's true. What if we had just a little button that popped up?
It wouldn't be a product.
We could get one of those. Hey, it's fun. Look, the conversation goes on, and it's always our conversation. I was thrilled that we had Thomas John on today. Thrilled to spend
I'm thrilled. I can't wait till October.
I know. So thrilled to spend the time with you, and of course to spend the time with all of you listening. And we invite you, of course, to come back again, because we'll be here next week here on Cutting Edge Consciousness.